Say thank you for the coffee. All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Let's begin. A lot to do today. Today's daf is Mem Tes 49. We are picking up on Mem Ches Amud Beis 48b, and we are picking up 4 lines up from the bottom. Zara, Rabbi Yossi. Yeah, thank you so much. Zara, Rabbi Yossi. So it says the Gemara. So remember again. We left off with an interesting machlokes, or a supposed machlokes, between Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan about the concept of zeh v'zeh gorem. Where did this come up, Rabbi saying? This came up in the situation, ultimately, again, the Mishnah told me as follows. According to the Rabbanan, I could plant vegetables underneath an asherah during the winter, but not during the summer. The logic being that during the summer, the shade is beneficial to the vegetables growing under, therefore that's called benefit from the asherah. The winter, the shade is actually detrimental. And therefore, again, I can go ahead and plant the vegetables underneath. Rabbi Yossi comes along and says, no, even during the winter you can't plant the vegetables. Why? Because during the winter the leaves fall and effectively serve to fertilize the vegetables. So the Gemara wanted to suggest as follows: that really the machlokes in Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan is a machlokes in zeh v'zeh gorem. What happens when you have two causative factors? When you have two things that result in the creation of an entity, one of them permitted, one of them forbidden. What is the nature of the final product? So the Gemara is suggesting if that's not Machlokes Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan say zeh v'zeh gorem mutter. Therefore, again, even though the leaves might be fertilizing the vegetables, it's not only the leaves by themselves which create the vegetables. What else is it? It's also the soil. The soil itself is permitted. So the permitted soil combined with the forbidden leaves is called zeh v'zeh gorem. The Rabbanan say that mixture allows the final product to be mutter. Rabbi Yossi, on the other hand, holds zeh v'zeh gorem aser, or at least that's what we're supposing right now. When you have two causative factors, one of them prohibited, the end result is going to be aser. So the Gemara questions this. For Zara, we'll say, Mem Ches Amud Beis 48b, 4 lines up from the bottom. Zara Rabbi Yossi zeh v'zeh gorem aser. Is that true that Rabbi Yossi holds zeh v'zeh gorem aser? We'll say that when you have two causative factors in the creation of an entity, one of them permitted, one of them forbidden, that the final product will be forbidden. Does he really hold that? So says the Gemara, after all, Vatanya, we learned, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Notin yichor shel arla, ve'in notin egos shel arla, mipnei shupri. So we'll say the halacha is arla, first 3 years of the new fruit. So one is not permitted to go ahead and eat the fruit or get benefits from the fruit. You can get benefit, however, from the tree itself. So says the Gemara, what can you do? Rabbi Yossi says, Notin yichor shel arla, ve'in notin egos shel arla. So you could plant, Rabbi say, like a branch of an arla tree in order to create a new tree, but you can't plant, Rabbi say, egos is literally a nut. What it means is the pre. You can't plant the pre, you can't get benefit from the pre by planting the pre in order to create new peros. B'nei shupri, Rabbi Yehuda Amrav, Mod Rabbi Yossi, Shemnata, Vehivrich, Vehirkiv Mutter. But yet Rabbi Yossi holds that what Rabbi was saying, that if you did plant the pre, right, or you did go ahead and graft the pre, that the result ultimately again will be mutter. Look at Rashi, Shemnata, Ha'egos shel arla mutter. So most Rabbi Yossi does hold, however, that halacha l'maisa, if you go ahead and you plant the nuts of arla, that ultimately again it will be mutter. Alma, so we'll say, so again, l'chatchila, one can't plant the pre of arla in order to produce something additional. But Rabbi Yossi says if you did do it, the resulting product will be mutter. Rabbi Yossi say, what does that show you? What does that show you? That in Rabbi Yossi's worldview, zeh v'zeh gorem is mutter. Because Rabbi Yossi say, if you take the forbidden orla fruit and you plant it in the soil and something issues forth, that new entity is a result of what? Is a result of the prohibited orla fruit, but also of what? of the permitted soil. So you see that Rabbi Yossi says, therefore, it's mutter. Why? Because zev zegorem is mutter. Look at the last Rashi. Shem nata ego sha'ar la mutter alma kigadol ha'ilan. Therefore, again, when you go ahead and you plant the egos of Arla, the resulting fruit is going to be mutter. Kigadol ilan vetan peros havalu hanach peros bigarma the egos the iser vikarka the heter vikatani mutter. So we'll say, you just got finished telling me that according to Rabbi Yossi, zev zegorim is aser. That's why he goes ahead and he says that you can't plant the vegetables underneath the Asherah tree even during the winter because the leaves serve to fertilize the fruit, the vegetables. Even though, again, the soil is permitted, the introduction of the prohibited leaves says zev zegorim is aser. But yet, here you see by the case of Arla, Rabbi Yossi says, as much as you're not permitted to plant fruit of Arla, if you did it, the resulting growth will be mutter. And we assume the reason for that is because you have two factors, the forbidden Arla fruit, but the permitted soil. And yet Rabbi Yossi holds that the result is mutter, which seems to say that what? Zev zegorim is mutter. So which one is it? To which the Gemara says, Mod Rabbi Yossi, also have rest that supports, or Mod Rabbi Yossi agrees. We'll say top of Memtes. Shimnata vehivrich veherkiv mutter. So we'll say ultimately again same idea. When a brisa that says that if Rabbi Yossi went ahead and took the fruit of the arla tree and he planted it or he grafted it, the resulting fruit is mutter. See according to this that Rabbi Yossi would hold that zev zegorim is going to be mutter. V'chi tema shani le Rabbi Yossi bein shari yisrael avodas kochavim. So okay, maybe there's a simple resolution. Maybe Rabbi Yossi normally holds zev zegorim is mutter, but when it comes to Avodah Zara, Isurim Avodah Zara, he'll say zev zegorim is aser. Which I will say is not such a wild suggestion because Avodah Zara we already see is treated in a more chamerdika manner. So maybe that's the resolution. That's why by Arla he'll hold zev zegorim is really mutter. Only by Avodah Zara he'll zev zegorim is aser. Which again, so we'll say just we keep our train of thought. That's why he holds in the case of the vegetables that you can't plant it underneath the Asherah tree, even during the winter when the shade is detrimental to the tree. Why? Because the leaves that fall will serve to fertilize the vegetables. So the Gemara says, one second. Umi Shanile, is that true that Rabbi Yossi would make a distinction between Avodah Zara and other things? After Avodah Tanya, listen to this. Sadesh is dabla b'zevel avodas kochavim. So let's say you have a field which was fertilized by the manure of Avodas Kochavim. Supposed to the simplest case of this is what? You have an animal which was worshipped as a deity, and the animal walks on my field, and as it walks on my field, it fertilizes my field. So we'll say, so what's that? So again, so if you have a field that was fertilized by an animal Avodah Zara, or v'chein para shenispatma bekarshine Avodas Kochavim, or I will say, let's say again, someone fed my cow Avodah Zara food, whatever the food is. Right, with karshin literally is like veg, animal feed. So somebody fed my animal avodah zara food. So we'll say, so now what's the shaila? The shaila is what's the status of my cow? What's the status of my field? So we'll say we have two different prices. Tani chada sada tizra parati shachet. So we'll say one opinion says it's fine, you could use the field, and the animal can be consumed. V'tanya idach. Now also listen to this. You have another price that says Sadet Tavor, you have to allow the field to lay fallow. You can't do anything with the field because the field was fertilized by Avodah Zara. Upara Tiraza. What does para Tiraza mean? My cow goes on a diet. We'll say, what does it mean my cow goes on a diet? That I can't partake of my cow, can't get benefit of the cow until the cow loses the weight from the Avodah Zara food that it consumed. Okay, whatever it is, it gets on the treadmill and it burns off, gives you the calorie count. Right? It goes ahead and it tells me how many calories it burnt off, then I could eat that, then I could eat the para. So we'll say, so we have two different prisos that tell me two dramatically different things. So again, remember, my field is being fertilized by Avodah Zara. My animal is eating Avodah Zara food. What's the status of the field? What's the status of the cow? Price number one, no problem. Field is permitted, cow is permitted. Brisa number two, field must lay fallow, cow must lose weight. So we'll say, how do we reconcile the two brisos? So we assumed, my love, Rabbi Yossi v'Harabanan. So we'll say, so we assume the resolution to this is very simple. One reflects the view of Rabbi Yossi, one reflects the view of the Rabbanan. What's machlokes Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan? It's machlokes of zev zegorim. When you have two causative factors which produce an end result, One of the factors is permitted, one is prohibited. What's the status of the end result? Rabbi Yossi, we assumed, held zev gorem is aser. Therefore, Rabbi Yossi, in the case of my field that gets fertilized by Avodah Zara, or my animal that eats Avodah Zara food, ultimately, again, the field will be prohibited, the cow will be prohibited. The other Bryce that says that it's all permitted reflects the view of the Rabbanan. So again, Rabbi Yossi, what we're saying over here is we have Rabbi Yossi on record as holding zev gorem is aser. You're trying to tell me that Rabbi Yossi really holds zev gorem is mutter. Maybe he just makes an exception by Avodah Zara. To which the Gemara says no. Ha Rabbi Elazar v'ha Rabbanan. So the Gemara says no. These two braisos are actually not reflective of the machlokes Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan. Rather, they're reflective of the machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan. So ask the Gemara, hey Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbanan, which Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan are you referring to? Ilema Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbanan, this Sa'ar. So we'll say, if you want to say it's Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan by the machlokes by Sa'ar. So what's the machlokes by Sa'ar? This nan. Sa'ar shel chulin, the shel truma, shenaf l'sochi. So I will say, so Sa'ar in this context ultimately again means yeast. So let's say again you have yeast of chulin, right? Regular yeast, and truma. I will say now the problem with truma is if I'm not a Kohen and truma gets mixed in with my food, we've got problems. We've got problems, right? It's only bottled in a very, very high shear. So the Gemara says as follows. So let's say again, Sa'ar of chulin and Sa'ar of truma get mixed into my isa and get mixed into my dough. Lo b'zekadei lechametz, lo b'gezekadei lechametz. Well, let's listen to this. Now, neither amount of yeast on their own have enough to go ahead and cause my dough to become leavened. Right? That's the idea of yeast. Right? Yeast causes it to become chametz. So what happens? So there's truma yeast, there's truma sa'ar, and there's chulin sa'ar. Fall into my dough. Neither by themselves has enough to make the dough chametz. But what happens? Then it's starful v'chimtzu. Now both say, but together when they combine, now there's enough yeast to make my dough chametz. So I'll say, so now what's the shayla? The shayla is what's the status of the dough? Is the dough permitted because it's chulin, or is it prohibited because it's truma? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Achar ha'acharon aniba. Rabbi Eliezer says something very interesting. He says the status of the dough is determined by the last yeast to fall in. So whichever yeast was the last one to fall in, which I will say effectively is the one that allows it to become chametz, that's the one which determines the identity of the dough. Rashi says over here, Achar acharon aniba. So we'll say it's a little bit. It's a cross and tosas dilma. Cross and tosas dilma. Achar acharon aniba. Osa shenafal acharon im shal chulin nafal acharon bita sarishon amotel azarim. Vim shal truma nafal acharon asel azarim. So we'll say so again. Everything depends on the last entity ultimately to fall in. So the Gemara says the Chacham say bein shenafal isra lechatchila, bein shenafal isra lebasof. Eino asa. So we'll say the Rabbanan say whether again it doesn't make a difference which order everything fell in, right? The dough will not be aser. Eino aser ad sheyehebo kedei lachametz. We'll say the Rabbanan say as follows: as long as the truma yeast that fell in does not have the capacity to make the dough chametz, then by definition the dough will be permitted, right? No matter what order the yeast fell in. As long as the truma yeast does not have the ability to go ahead and make the mixture chametz, ultimately, again, we're in good shape. The dough will be permitted. So it says the Gemara, V'amra Abaye says, Lo shanu ela shekidem v'silek es ha'isser. Abaye says, when is this true? And I will say, Abaye is modifying Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. So Rabbi Eliezer says, remember again, so according to the Rabbanon say, I'm sorry, According to let's work backwards. According to the Chachamim say as long as the truma yeast did not have the ability to go ahead and what? Did not have the ability to go ahead and make the dough chametz, so by definition the dough will be permitted. Rabbi Eliezer says we go after the acharon, we go after the last item, the last yeast introduced into the dough. That's the one which defines the identity of the dough. So Abaye comes along and says, when does Rabbi Eliezer say that we go after the last one, and if the last one is chulin, then the dough will be permitted? That's only true if you had already removed the chametz yeast. Avalo kidim v'silek yesa iser aser. Rabbi say again, if at the time when the permitted yeast fell in, even though it's falling in second, the prohibited yeast is still there, ultimately again the dough will be aser. Rabbi say, take a look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, Avalelo kidim v'silek yesa iser. It's the first wide line in Rashi. Sha'afa pisha nafal heter lebasof aser to zev v'zeh gorim aser u'lerabanan zev v'zeh gorim mutter. So we'll say, watch this. Comes along Abaye, and Abaye says as follows: When do we say that according to Rabbi Eliezer, the last yeast creates the identity of the dough? That's only if the prohibited yeast fell in and was then removed. So therefore, the only thing you have left there is what? Is the permitted yeast. So as long as it fell in last, the permitted yeast fell in last, and the prohibited yeast was already removed, then the dough will be mutter. We'll say, what's the logic there? So according to Rabbi Eliezer, if the prohibited yeast, if the truma yeast was still there, then what? That'd be zev zegorim. And Rabbi Eliezer holds that zev zegorim is aser. So we'll say, so you see over here that this is the machlokis, meaning the machlokis is not between Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanon. Rather, who is it between? It's between Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanon. The Rabbanon holds zev zegorim is mutter, and that's why the Rabbanon say, as long as the truma yeast doesn't have the ability to make the dough chametz on its own. So it's both yeasts working together in concert to make the dough chametz. That's called zev zegorim. They hold zev zegorim is mutter. Rabbi Eliezer, on the other hand, holds zev zegorim is aser. That's what Rabbi Eliezer says, as long as the permitted yeast falls in last, and the prohibited yeast has already been removed, only then is the dough going to be permitted. So the Gemara says, Umimai, the time of Rabbi Eliezer Kabaye. So we'll say, how do you know that Rabbi Eliezer's logic is like Abaye? That it's an issue of Zev Zegorim as Aser. Dilma, time of Rabbi Eliezer, Mishum Da'acher Acher Niba. We'll say, now remember again, Abaye is the one who modifies Rabbi Eliezer's Shita. When Rabbi Eliezer says his Shita about the two yeast falling into the dough, all Rabbi Eliezer says is what? All Rabbi Eliezer's lashon is achar niba. The identity of the yeast is determined by the last yeast to fall in. So as long as it was the truma yeast and then the permitted yeast, the dough will be mutter. Abaye comes along and says that even in a case where it was the truma one and then the permitted one, so the permitted one fell in last, the dough is only mutter if you've already removed the truma yeast. Says the Gemara, how do you know that? Maybe Shitas Rabbi Eliezer simply is that the identity of the dough is determined by the identity of the last yeast to fall into the mixture. Maybe there's nothing to do with zev zegorim aser. To which the Gemara says, Dilma time of Rabbi Eliezer mishum ta'achar niba igamer. So the Gemara says, igamer bi'isura, igamer bi'isura asura, v'igamer behetera mutarin, bein salke. Bein lo salke, I will say everything is determined by what? By how the dough is finished off. If the dough is finished off with the permitted yeast, then the dough is permitted. If the dough is finished off by the prohibited yeast, then the dough is prohibited. Ella Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbanan de'itzim. The Rabbi the Gemara suggests that the machlokis of zev zegorim is actually by Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan by the case of eitzim. What's the case of eitzim? So this is actually the next Mishnah that we'll see. Disnan. Not only asura b'hana, but say if you went ahead and you removed wood from the Asherah tree, so the wood is going to be asur b'hana, hesik ba satanur, if you went ahead and you fired up an oven. So let's say you took wood from an Asherah tree and you used it to fire up an oven. So chadash yutat, so we'll say if it's a new oven, so the new oven must be destroyed. We'll see this in the next Mishnah, but when you created a new oven, so part of the way in which the kli was finished was you fired it up the first time. Remember, ovens were often made of earthenware, so the only way to fully finish the kli was to fire it up, and you would harden it through the fire. If you fired it up for the first time with Asherah wood, then the problem is you've completed the kli with Avodah Zara, which means that now the kli itself is asr, it has to be smashed. Alpha bo asapas. Similarly, again, if you took an oven, you fired it up with Asherah wood, you baked bread in it, asura. Ultimately, the bread will be prohibited. Asura ba'ano. The bread will be prohibited ba'ano. This arva ba'acherim. If that loaf of bread got mixed up with other loaves of bread, kulan asuros ba'ano. We'll say ultimately again, all of the loaves will be asur ba'ano. all those will be Asr Ba'ana. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Yolich Hana Liyam HaMelech. Rabbi Eliezer holds that the Hana ultimately again could be thrown into the Yam HaMelech. So we'll discuss what that means. What that means, Rabbi Eliezer holds is you can take the value of the prohibited item, throw it away, discard it, and essentially get benefits from the rest of from the rest of the stuff. Let me clarify that again. The Rabbanan holder will say that, let's say again, I take a share of wood, I go ahead and I fire up an oven. I bake a loaf of bread in that oven. Everyone agrees that that loaf of bread is going to be aser because it was baked with Avodah Zara wood. We'll say now what happens? That loaf of bread gets mixed up with other loaves of bread. So now what's the shaila? What's the status of the mixture? The Rabbanan say kulan asuros. The Rabbanan will say all of the loaves are prohibited. Rabbi Eliezer holds yolich hanal yamelch. We'll say yolich hanal yamelch means take the value of one of the loaves, which represents the prohibited loaf, and discard it. This way, again, you're getting no financial benefit from the prohibited loaf, but after that, all of the loaves themselves become permitted. So the Gemara says, Amru lo, so they said to Rabbi Eliezer, Ein podin la'avodas kochavim. Right? Ultimately, again, you can't redeem Avodah Zara. In other words, this idea of taking the money and throwing it into Yam HaMelech is a very nice idea, but you can't redeem Avodah Zara. To which the Gemara says, Rabbanan de pligi alei Rabbi Eliezer maninu. Who are the rabbis who argue on Rabbi Eliezer? Ilema Rabbanan de itzim. So I'll say, if you want to say that that's the Rabbanan, ultimately, again, by the case of the itzim, achmurei machmiri. The Rabbanan said they've already known, ultimately, again, to be machmir in the case of Avodah Zara. Ella Rabbanan de Sa'ar. Rather, Rabbanan say you have to say that it's the Rabbanan of Sa'ar, of the case that we just had before, of the Sa'ar of Truma and the Sa'ar of Chulun that fall into the Isa. Eimer de Shamisul Rabbanan de Makili bis Sa'ar, Ba'avodas Kochav mi Makili. So it could be that the Rabbanan are makel by Zevez and going by a case of Sa'ar, but who's to say they're makel by Avodah Zara? Ella li Olam ha Rabbi Yossi v'ha Rabbanan. Rather, Rabbi say now we go all the way back, Rabbi say. So rather, you have to say at the end of the day, it's like what we started with, which is that the machlokas of Zev Zagorim is really a machlokas between Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan. I will say that Rabbi Yossi holds that Zev Zagorim is going to be Aser. That's when you have two causative factors which result, one of them being prohibited, one of them being permitted, which result in the final product. The final product will be Aser. The Rabbanan holds Zev Zagorim is Mutter. So the Gemara says, and Rabbi Yossi, l'divreihem de Rabbanan amar lahu. And Rabbi Yossi, I will say, ultimately, again, is espousing his shita in accordance with the words of the Rabbanan. How so? He says to them the following: Amar lahu, l'didi zev zagorim mutter. So Rabbi Yossi will say the following: according to me, I actually hold that zev zagorim is mutter. L'didachu da'amrisu zev zagorim aser odu li mihas afirakos mimos hagishamim. Says Rabbi Yossi to them, but according to you, who hold Zev Zagorim is Aser, at least admit to me regarding the case of the vegetables that grow under the Asherah tree during the winter. V'Rabbanan kida amar Rav Mari Breid Rav Kana. The will say the Rabbanan will respond to Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi will say, at least admit to me that in the case of the vegetables which grow underneath the Asherah during the winter, that they should be that they should be prohibited. Why? Because even though they're not benefiting from the shade, they are benefiting from what? They're benefiting from the leaves, from the fertilizer. And the Rabbanan will say no. Kida Amar Rav Mari Breid Rav Kana. We'll say the Rabbanan will go ahead and respond like Rav Mari Breid Rav Kana. We'll say, what's Rav Mari Breid Rav Kana? We'll say that's the case we saw yesterday with the skinning of the animal, right? Where Rav Mari Breid Rav Kahana says that what you gain on one end with the flaying of the animal from the feet, you lose out ultimately again by compromising the basar. So to the Rabbanan say, what you gain, so to speak, from the fertilizer, from the fallen leaves, you lose what? Through the shade, which is detrimental during the rainy season. For Rabbanan couldn't find. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Halacha Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel, the halacha of Rabbi Yossi. So both say. So this is actually a very interesting halacha. So in Yeridea, Kuf Mem Beis Seif Yud Aleph, 142 in Yeridea. So halacha. So halacha Yirav. So also listen to this, and this indeed is halacha l'maisa. Shulchan Aruch Paskins. Mutter lita tachas ha'ashera yirakos bein bimos hachama shem tzrichen letzel, bein bimos hageshamim. So also listen to this. So ultimately, again, Shulchan Aruch paskins that you are permitted to go ahead and plant vegetables underneath an Asherah tree, whether it's during the summer or during the winter. Amazing. During the summer or during the winter. Why? So the Gemara says, because Rabbi say in the creation of these vegetables, there are two things that aid in the creation of the vegetables. There is the prohibited shade of the Asherah tree, right? Or for that matter, Rabbi say, so the shade, let's say the shade is beneficial during the summer, or the leaves which are beneficial during the winter, and the soil. The soil itself, of course, is permitted. So we'll say, what do you have? You have a zeh, the zeh gorem. You have the zeh of the soil, which is permitted. Ultimately the zeh of the asherah, which let's say during the summer you have the shade, which is beneficial. During the winter you have the leaves, which are beneficial. They contribute. So we'll say, what's the halacha? The chol davar she'isser v'davar mutter garmim lo hare zeh mutter b'chol ma. We'll say, says the Shulchan Aruch, zeh v'zeh gorem is mutter. Any time in the creation of an entity, you have two forces, one which is permitted, one which is prohibited. The resulting product, I will say, ultimately will be permitted. Therefore, if you plant vegetables underneath the Asherah tree, whether you're doing it during the winter, whether you're doing it during the summer, the resulting vegetables will be mutter. Similarly, says the Shulchan Aruch, lefichach sadeh shezibla bezel shavodos kochavim mutter lizroa osa. Therefore, says the Shulchan Aruch as well, that if you have a field which is fertilized by an animal of Avodah Zara, or somebody fed your animal Avodah Zara food, the halach is that what? The field is permitted. Ultimately, again, your cow is permitted, because it was say we paskin zeh v'zeh gorem is mutter. And that is indeed halacha l'maisa brought down in Yaradeya. Good. So let's go back there. There was a particular farmer who went ahead and fertilized his field with the fertilizer of Avodah Zara. So again, this case is Zev Zegorem. You have prohibited fertilizer, but what? Permitted soil. So says the Gemara, Shalach Rav Amram Kamed Rav Yosef, Amar Lihachir Rav Yehuda Rav Shmuel, Halacha Rav Yossi. He sent Rav Yossi and he said, ultimately again, the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. So we'll say it turns out that Rabbi Yossi actually holds that Zev Zegorem is mutter. And we'll say that is indeed how we paskin halacha l'maisa. Good. We'll say says the Mishnah Abay. So also we already got a sneak peek of this Mishnah because the Gemara quoted it before. So says the Gemara as follows. Says the Mishnah as follows. We'll say Mem Tes on base. Natal mimena eitzim asura banda. Supposed to listen to this. If I took wood from an asherah tree, so that wood will be asur banda. Hesik bahen esataner. If I then took the asherah wood, what happens? I fire it up in oven. So now what's the status? Im chadash yutatz. So we'll say, remember again, if this is a brand new oven. Now what's the definition of a brand new oven? An oven which is brand new. What does that mean? We'll say that a fire has never been fired up inside of it. That's what makes it brand new. So it's just been formed. This is now the first firing up, as we just said before. The oven is only considered to be completed, right, once it's fired up. So now this is the first, and this is not just the firing up of the oven, but this is a completion of the kli. The kli itself is being solidified through Avodah Zara. Therefore, again, in Chadash Yutat. So also, therefore, if it's a brand new oven that is being fired up for the first time with wood of Avodah Zara, ultimately, again, it must be destroyed. V'im Yashan, I will say, what happens if it's an older oven? So, Yutzan. Then I will say, I can't use it again until when? Until it cools. See, I will say, because interestingly enough, in earthenware ovens, even after the fire went out, there was residual heat in the walls of the oven, which allowed you to cook in it as well. So I will say, so again, even if I cook once the fire goes out, I can't get benefit from the residual heat of the oven, which was caused by wood of Avodah Zara. Therefore, I have to wait till the oven cools down to use it again. Afa ba'asapas, but if I went ahead and I baked bread inside this oven, asura, again, but still same case. This is all with asherah wood, all with Avodah Zara wood. Ultimately, again, the bread is going to be asur. Afa ba'asapas, asur ba'ana. So the bread will be asur ba'ana. Nis'aru ba'achiros, so let's say I make that loaf, and that loaf gets mixed in with other loaves. Kulan asuros ba'ana. But all of the loaves will be asur ba'ana. So again, in this case, I took asherah wood, fired up an oven, baked bread in the oven. That resulting loaf is asur. if that loaf now gets mixed in with other loaves, so that's what Rabbi say. It's no longer discernible from the other permitted loaves. The Rabbanan say they are all aser ba'ana. Rabbi Eliezer says no, you don't have to do that. Yolech melech. We'll say he says take the benefit and throw it into the melech, which also means as follows. Let's say for argument's sake, a loaf of bread is $5. So what does Rabbi Eliezer say? Rabbi says now here's the problem. The problem is in front of me now. I have 15 loaves. One of them is prohibited, right? 14 are permitted. So I bittul. Also remember again, bittul doesn't work by Avodah Zara. Avodah Zara is never batal. Rabbi Eliezer says what you can do is take $5, and throw it away. Throwing it into Yam HaMelech is an expression. It means throw it away in a way which you get no benefit. Throw it into a fire. Throw it into whatever it is. Discard the benefit. Thereby, I am not benefiting from Avodah Zara in any way. Yolech Chanol Yam HaMelech. Amrulo. So the rabbi said, right, the Rabbanan said to Rabbi Eliezer, that's very nice, but Ein Pidyon LaAvodas Kochavim. Both say you can't redeem idolatry. In other words, the idea of taking $5 throwing into Amelech is a very nice idea. Essentially, what you're trying to do is you're trying to redeem the prohibited loaf by going ahead and what? Discarding any financial benefit you may get. That's fine, but it doesn't work. Not a karkor. But say, listen to this. Let's say you took from the Asherah, karkor, but say is a weaver's pick. The idea is that when somebody is weaving, so they have the string on a loom, you would have like a little piece of wood, like a pick, just to go ahead and align the pieces of wool on the loom. So what's the halacha? We'll say asr ba'ano. So obviously, again, I can't use the pick, right? It's asr ba'ano. However, arag ba'as habeged. We'll say, let's say I use the pick in the creation of weaving a garment. Asr ba'ano. The garment itself will be asr ba'ano. Why are both saying? Because halacha l'maaseh, it was formed with the pick of Avodah Zara, with wood of Avodah Zara. So the Gemara says, let's say now this garment got mixed in with other garments. This garment which was made with the pick of Avodah Zara got mixed in with other garments. Kulon asrin ba'ana. Both say the entire mixture of garments becomes asr ba'ana. Remember, no rove by Avodah Zara because Avodah Zara is never bottled. Rabbi Eliezer, so same thing. We'll say, we're going to ask, this case seems to be the same exact thing as the bread case. There's no difference between the garment case and the bread case. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, let's say the garment is worth $20, just take $20, throw it into Yam HaMelech, and Gamarnu. We're good. So you're no longer benefiting from anything to do with Avodah Zara, to which the Gemara says, Amru lo, in pidyon la'avodas kochavim. So we'll say, ultimately, again, they said to Rabbi Eliezer, there is no pidyon, there is no redemption, ultimately, again, for avodas kochavim. And therefore, again, everything is going to remain aser. So we'll say, so now the Gemara begins with a very simple question. Rabbi Eliezer seems to be saying the same thing on both cases. We'll say, meaning the machlokes seems to be exactly the same. Which is what? Which is halacha l'maaseh, if you have something created with avodah zara, and now what? And now you want to go ahead and you make something with it. Whether it's bread or whether it's a garment. So I will say, then obviously that finished product is aser. If it gets mixed in with other things, the Rabbanan say the entire mixture is aser. Rabbi Eliezer says take the value of the prohibited item and essentially discard it, and the mixture becomes permitted. So the Gemara asks, okay, I got it. Why do you need both cases of the bread and the weaver's pick? It's the same concept both times. Why do I need both? L'tzricha. So I'm going to tell you why I need both. Because if we would have just said the first case by the bread, I would have thought maybe Rabbi Eliezer is just makel in the case of the bread. Rabbi will say why? Because at this point in time, when the bread is finished, the isser is gone. What do you know? Say the isser is gone. The isser, which is the wood, right, is gone. It's burnt up. It's incinerated. So maybe because the isser no longer exists, therefore it could be a little bit more makel with the bread. And yolech hanal Yam HaMelech aval karkor the isa leisura be'ine ima modi l'Rabbanan. But both in the case of the weaver's pick, where the object is still in existence, maybe Rabbi Eliezer agrees that therefore the garment, which was created with the pick, which is still in existence, will not be batal. The iash mu'inan karkor, and I will say if we would have just said the case of the weaver's pick, baha kamri Rabbanan. Maybe it's only in that case that the Rabbanan say that ultimately again the garment can never be batal. Aval pas. But maybe in the case of bread, ema modi le Rabbi Eliezer. I would have thought that perhaps again they would be moded to Rabbi Eliezer. Therefore, I will say both cases are tzricha. Both cases ultimately again Both cases ultimately again are necessary. Amar Rabbi Chia Rava, Bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Ziri. Halacha Rabbi Eliezer. So also you have all these. So again, Rabbi Chia Rava says the name of all these other individuals. Then Rav Chisda Ziri, that the halacha follows Rabbi Eliezer. They're also namely that if you have this prohibited item, right, meaning this item which was created with Avodah Zara, that item subsequently goes ahead and gets mixed in with other items, then just Yolich Hano Yamamelach. All you need to do, Rabbi saying, to permit the mixture is what? Take the value of the prohibited item, discard that value, and the mixture is permitted. Rabbi say, what does that mean when you do that? What that effectively does is what? I am no longer benefiting from Avodah Zara. In other words, when I take the value of that loaf of bread, or I take the value of that garment, and I discard it, the rest of the mixture becomes permitted, and I am no longer benefiting from anything to do with Avodah Zara. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Chisda, Amar li Abba bar Rav Chisda, Hachi Amar Ziri, Halacha K'Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, I'll say another statement to back this up. Good. Rav Ad bar Abba, Lo Shana El Pas. Rav Ad bar Abba said that this case, right, is only talking about when we speak about that the halacha follows Rabbi Eliezer. We're talking about the case of bread, aval chavis lo. But we'll say not in a case of a barrel of wine. All right, we'll discuss what this means in just a moment. So the Gemara says, Rav Chisda amar afilu chavis mutaras. And Rav Chisda says, we'll say, what's the chilik between bread and wine? So the pashas, the difference would be as follows. The case of bread, Rabbi say, is an entity which was created with Avodah Zara. So meaning the wood itself was Avodah Zara, which helped to bake the bread. But the bread itself, Rabbi say, becomes asr because it was made with Avodah Zara, as opposed to yayin nesech, which Rabbi say is what? Is Avodah Zara itself, right? Or can be Avodah Zara itself. So I might have thought that Rabbi Eliezer's logic of Yolech Chanal Yamamelach only applies to objects which were created with Avodah Zara, but that's something like yayin nesech itself. Kamashlan says the Gemara that Rav Chisda says even in the case of chavis, Rabbi Eliezer's logic will still stand. Hu gavra this arif lechavisa di yayin nesech bechamrei. Both said there was a man who had a bunch of barrels of wine, and one barrel of yayin nesech got mixed in with his other barrels. So the Gemara says, Rav Chisda. So he came before Rav Chisda, and Rav Chisda told him, Shakal arba zuzei v'shadi binara v'nishtri lach. And Rav Chisda told him, essentially, Yolech Chanal Yamamelach, take the value of one barrel of wine, throw it into the Yamamelach, and the rest of the mixture will be permitted to you. And I both say, this is indeed how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. Shulchan Aruch talks about the case of the bread, case of the garment, and bottom line says the following: in the case of the bread, the Shulchan Aruch writes, Yolech Hanan, Nisar Bacheres, Yolech Demei Osa Hapas Yamamelach, Ushar Haki Karos Mutarin. Both say, all I need to do is halacha l'maisa, go ahead and take the value of the object, throw it into Yamamelach, and I could go ahead and get benefits from the rest of the mixture. Okay, well, so we pass at the end of the day like Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah. Weiter, Mishnah, Ketzad Mevatla. So we'll say ultimately again, how was one mevatel the Asherah? Right? How could one be mevatel the Asherah? So says the Gemara, Kirseim v'zireid natal mimena makelo sharvit afilo Allah. Hare zebatla. So we'll say if a person went ahead and pruned it, or trimmed it, or took from it, literally made from it a makel, right, a staff for himself, afilu Allah, or even if he just took off a leaf, so we'll say what's the halacha? Hare zebitla. Ultimately, again, he's mevatel the asherah. Sheep al tzarcha. However, if you went ahead and you removed things from it for the benefit of the tree, asura. Shelo b'tzarcha muteres. So we'll say essentially what the Mishnah says as follows. This goes out to what we saw yesterday. Remember again, the Gemara says, how do you know if you come across a tree? How can you tell if it's stam and asherah tree? If you see the priest sitting underneath it and what? They don't partake of the fruit. So I'll say in general, again, an asherah tree was off limits. So the simple way to be mevatel and asherah tree, Rabbi says how? Is you go ahead and you remove a piece of the tree. You remove branches, not for the sake of the tree, but just because A, you're going to destroy them, or B, because you're going to use them. That, by definition, is bittul of the tree. So if you go ahead and you prune it, or you trim it, or you remove things from it for the benefit of the tree, then I'll say, ultimately, again, you're not mevatel it. But if you're just removing it, stamped to remove it to the purpose of removing it, not for the sake of the Avodah Zara, that, by definition, is the bittul of the tree. Says the Gemara, Osin shafan mate alehen. So listen to this. let's say again, there's a case of where somebody pruned the Asherah tree for the benefit of the tree. Right? I guess at some point in time, even the Avodah Zara would prune the tree. So we'll say, here's the Shaila. What's the status of the prunings? Right? What's the status of those branches which were pruned from the Asherah tree? Are they permitted or prohibited? So please give your Rafuna Rav Chia. Barav Chad Amar Asurin, the Chad Amar Mutar. So we'll say it's Machlokes. Machlokes Rav Huna and Rabbi Chia Barav. One said Mutar, one said Asur. So it says the Gemara, Tanya Kiman Amar Mutarin. So ultimately, again, it would seem to be a Brisa supports the one who says that it's Mutar Tisanya, Ovid Kochavim Sheshif Avodas Kochavim Letzarcho. That if an Ovid Kochavim Rabosai went ahead and pruned or trimmed the tree, Letzarcho. What so Letzarcho means? For his own use, for his own benefit, he ushefa'eha mutarin. So we'll say ultimately again, the tree as well as its trimmings will be permitted. Why, Rabbi say? Because if an Ovid Kochavim goes ahead and trims the tree for his own benefit, and I will say, what is he effectively doing? What is he doing? He's being mavatal the Avodah Zara. So that which he prunes is going to be permitted, and the tree itself, Rabbi say, is now bittul umavutal as well. Litzarcha, if he pruned the tree for its own benefit, he asura, the tree will still remain prohibited. Ushifa'eha mutarin. But I will say ultimately again, that which he pruned will be mutter. On the other hand, the Yisrael sheshif avodas kochavim. But I will say if Yisrael went ahead and pruned the tree, pruned the Asherah, bein litzarcha, bein litzarcho. Whether he went ahead and he pruned it for his own benefit or for the tree's benefit, he ushifa'eha asurin. Both the tree as well as that which was trimmed from it will be asur. We'll say the idea over here is because remember, a Yisrael doesn't have the ability to be mevatel and avodas kochavim. So itmar avodas kochavim shnishtabra. But we'll say let's go back to something we learned before. What about an avodas kochavim? We'll say that just broke. As we'll say, we've seen this case. It broke on its own. So we'll say what's the status? Rav Amar tzarich levatel kol kisim v'kisim. Rav says that you have to go ahead and what? You have to be actively be mevatel every single piece. Look at Rashi. Rav Amar, even though it broke on its own, tzricha bittel. V'kol kisam v'kisam nasas avodas kochavim b'fnei atzmo. Hilchach lo sagi lechad bebitul dechavrei. So we'll say ultimately again, when it breaks, every single piece becomes an avodas kochavim, and therefore again, every single piece ultimately again needs its own bittel. Shmuel says no, avodas kochavim ina betela ela derech gidei lasa. So Shmuel says, it's a very cryptic statement. Shmuel says, avodas kochavim can only become batel in the way that it normally grows. What does that mean? Adrabah, derech gidilasa mimavatla. We'll say if an avodah zara breaks in the normal course of the way that it grows. We'll say the paradigmatic case of an avodah zara breaking in the way that it grows is how? Is a leaf falling off of an Asherah tree. We'll say that's quote unquote breakage, but that's the normal part. Now we know that when avodah zara breaks in that fashion, I will say what's the halacha? The halacha is it still retains its avodah zara identity, right? Again, that's why we got into the whole issue of the vegetables underneath the Asherah tree. Halacha, this is what it means to say ein avodas kochavim tzricha levata ela derech gidei lasa. What Shmuel and Silber say is that avodas kochavim only needs bittul only if it experiences breakage in the normal fashion. But if it experiences breakage in any type of abnormal fashion, then by definition it is batal and mevutal. And I will say the reason behind that is why, because remember again, Shmuel will say that when the avodah, we saw this before, when the avodah zara breaks, I will say, and it breaks on its own, so the oved, the person who serves it says to himself, listen, if this avodah zara can't go ahead and what? Save itself from just breakage, then what? Certainly can't save me, and it's going to stop worshiping it. So I'll say fundamental machlokes is Rav and Shmuel. When the avodah zara breaks on its own, Rav says every single piece still needs bittul. Shmuel says it does not. Lima b'hakam eflagi. But we'll see, maybe they're arguing about the following point. Demar savar ovdin l'shvarim, umar savar in ovdin l'shvarim. We'll say maybe what they're arguing about, we'll say is, do ovdei kochavim worship avodah zara shards? If the avodah zara breaks, do they worship the pieces or not? No, it's not true. Everybody agrees that what? Ovdei kochavim do worship even the shards of their avodah zara, even if it breaks. And we'll say, here's what they're arguing about. Do they go ahead and do they worship the shards of the shards? Or if the avodah zara breaks into pieces and the pieces break into smaller pieces, do they worship the smaller pieces? One opinion says that shivei shram asurim, masar shivei shvurim mutarim. We'll say that's one possibility what they're arguing about. The other possibility is everybody agrees that the shards of the shards will be mutter. V'hacha ba'avodas kochavim shel chulios. And I will say here, ultimately, again, what are they arguing about? About an avodah zara that's made of pieces. By definition, it's made of interlocking pieces. And it's a type of avodah zara where even if it comes apart, it's easy to go ahead and reassemble it. You don't need to be an expert. Anybody can reassemble it. So we'll say, so now what happens? That avodah zara falls apart. Mar savar kevan tehedjot yachalach zir labatla. So we'll say one holds that in that case where the avodah zara is made up of pieces and it falls down and it breaks, but it can be easily reassembled. So since anybody can reassemble it, therefore again the ovid avodah zara is not mevatel it, even though it's broke, because it's easily put back together. It's not batel. Umar savar in avodas kochavim betela ela derech gedelasa dahainu orchei halav gedelasihi vein tzricha levatel. But whereas the other opinion, which Rabbi Shmuel holds that what an ovid kochavim is only not batel. But say if it breaks in a normative fashion, we call derech gedelasa, like the leaf falling off the tree. But any time the avodah zara breaks in a non-normative fashion, i.e., just falls down and breaks, that the avodah zara is automatically batel and doesn't require any additional level of bittul. But say, and indeed, the way Pascha Halacha L'Maisa is like the Mishnah, that if an ovid kochavim takes any piece of the asherah, a branch, whatever it is, and he uses it right, not for the purpose of for the benefit of the asherah tree itself, that by definition goes ahead and affects bittul. But I will say, if the asherah tree, if the avodah zara breaks on its own, we pass in like Rav that the ovid kochavim have to be mevatel even the shvar. All right, we'll say Hadron Allah Kol Atzlamim. We'll start the new parak in Eretz Hashem tomorrow. We'll say the heat is not working in the shul.